Welcome to Halesowen College's podcast, which today is for students who are progressing from year 1 to year 2 or onto a further course at the college. And I'm Jo Williams, I'm Deputy Principal. I'm sure I'll have seen some of you around or spoken to some of you. And welcome. It's nice to be speaking to students again, even though I can't actually see you. And I'll probably say it more than once, but we really are missing you. A college without students just isn't right, as I'm sure you'll agree. I'd also like to welcome Julia Edmonds. She's our head of partnerships, and she's got the quizmaster bit today of putting your questions to me after I've given you a bit of an idea of where we are at the college. So I hope everybody's well. And just to say again, you really are at the forefront of our minds. A college without students just isn't the same. And we know that for some of you it's probably more difficult than others. Some of you may actually be enjoying the work from home, but I'm sure it hasn't been lost on you that if we're at college now, we'd be gearing up for exams, coursework completion, and we've had some really nice stories and pictures and things through about how well you've all been doing. Teachers have spoken really highly about people who've just dug in and almost made it second nature to be learning online. Who knew that would be the case even 3-4 months ago? It's really nice that you've kept in touch with your personal coaches and teachers. And as I say, when we hear about students, it gives us that bit of normality. Staff have told us loads of stories about the stuff that you're doing. And just like probably it's nice for you to hear from either family, friends, teachers, it's also nice for your teachers to hear from you. So thanks for keeping us in touch, and please keep doing that because it is really good to hear how you're getting on. I'll try and answer all the questions we've got today and give you an idea of where we're at. But if you have got any other questions, what I don't want you to do is sit at home and worry, because there's nothing worse. So you can submit a question on our website. You can email hub@halesowen.ac.uk, admissions@halesowen.ac.uk, or info@halesowen.ac.uk. And you also know we've got Facebook Messenger. So whichever way is best for you to contact us, please do. So what I'm going to try and do in the first bit of the podcast is just let you know what the rest of the academic year will look like as best I can, because you'll be aware that we're getting things from the government every day and things are moving very quickly. To give you a bit of an update on your qualifications, to talk a little bit about what we think the arrangements might look like in September and what we're doing to make sure that everybody will be safe and well and also be able to learn. And also a little bit about the developments on the campus, because you'll remember there's some building work going on and we have got some developments to tell you about. So in terms of how you're going to finish this academic year, for now, as is currently the case, you'll be in touch with your personal coach and your teaching team over the coming weeks. And they will start to talk to you more about the second year if you're going into a second year, or your new course if you're going into a new course. And we are still setting work, and we do want you to complete that to the required standard, because it will set you in really good stead for next year and actually probably prevent you from overdosing on too much Netflix, Amazon Prime and whatever else it is you're watching, because we all are. We want to engage with you in the way that suits you best. And a big thank you to those of you that completed the online survey. Not only was it great to hear some of the things you're really enjoying, but it did help us to think, hang on, that's going well, maybe we should do more of that. Or, okay, we need to think about that because that's not working well. And we rely on you to tell us, because if you don't, we maybe carry on doing something that's not working very well. So if you do want to share anything else, please let your personal coach know, head of division, let somebody know what's working well, what's not, or if you'd like to see something else. We're using Microsoft Teams, and who knew that was going to become such a thing? And I think we've all now got very used to the fact that you can see 4 people on your screen, one of them's you, and trying to look at everybody else other than yourself, because certainly I found it quite strange staring at yourself all day, talking to yourself as well as other people. But it has been really good in terms of talking to peers, talking to staff. And please do use that, because if you've had a day which hasn't gone particularly well or just feeling a bit down, it's quite nice to keep in touch. So please do use the Teams. And I know for personal coaches, it is really good when they've been able to make contact with you and had a bit of a chat, because that's your bit of normality. And if you're struggling with lockdown, as I'm sure some people are, and that's staff and students, there is support out there. So it could be friends. If you've got friends and family you can talk to, that's great. But if you want somebody else, we've got our designated safeguarding leads. Our student advisor and counsellors. And again, all those contacts are on the website on the coronavirus page. And please do get in touch with them. Even if it's just for a chat, even if it's just for somebody to say, do you know what, we're all feeling a bit like that, because I think sometimes that makes you feel better. So we don't want you to forget that all those people are there for you. And again, for them to have a chat with people, that's their job. And to not do that, it's kind of that feeling where, you know, where's your normality? So please do feel free to get in contact with them if you need some help or support. The other thing that you will have had some communication about is the student ambassador scheme. And every year we have our student ambassadors, and they really are the face of the college. Parents and students every year say, it's great to talk to the teachers, but when you hear it from a student, it means that little bit more. That's the reality. And they do make a really large contribution to our student events and initiatives. And we are asking for people now to submit applications to be an ambassador in 2020-21. There's a link that's been sent to you, and if you do feel that you'd like to do that, then please do click the link and put in an application. Some of the areas that you might be interested in being an ambassador for are equality and diversity, education and learning, well-being, something to do with enrichment if you play in sports teams or do some of the other enrichment we offer. We've also got an environmental ambassador, LGBTQ+, and digital ambassadors. So any of those that may be of interest, please put an application in. Because again, whether our ambassadors are all face-to-face or doing some stuff online, students can really help reach out to other students, prospective students, and to show our college in its best light, because a college is nothing without its students. And I think at this time, that's really hit home to all of us. We'll all be thinking about qualifications as well, and certainly in terms of what I've spent a lot of time doing is working with the awarding bodies and looking at what we've got to do to make sure you get your grades this year if you were expecting one. So you'll probably know if you were expecting a grade this year, and that could be year one vocational students doing BTECs, OCR qualifications, NCFE, CASH, VTCT, to name but a few. If I've missed any out, I apologise. So if you were expecting a qualification, we'll be calculating that grade based on the work that you've completed. And the technical date for that was work completed up to the 20th of March 2020. But some of you worked obviously after that date. And if any of you, for any reason, hadn't done the work you should have done, you have had some time to do that. And you'll have been working with your tutors. And again, just talking to tutors this week, I know some of you have worked exceptionally hard to make sure that the work's been done. And it will be really useful for next year as well. So not only will you get a grade for this year, but it'll all feed into next year. So nothing you're doing now is a waste of time. So teachers will be setting work. It's important you keep on with that because it will help with year two, and you will get a predicted grade. We'll predict a grade and you will get a grade in the summer. Year one A-level students, again, you weren't expecting a grade this summer, but all the work you're doing now will contribute to year two. We'll make sure we go back over it when you're back at college. So if there's something that you're thinking, I'm not really sure of that, that's not the end of the world. Just do as much as you can because it will all be good underpinning knowledge. And I think when you're thinking, hang on, we should have been in a classroom for this, we should be doing this, just remember that everybody across the country is in the same position, so that we are talking to awarding bodies. We're not sure what next year and next year's exams will look like, but everybody's in the same position. So we just need to keep on. You need to keep on working with your tutors and trust them. But we are also trusting the awarding bodies to recognise the situation that we're in. And I think that probably leads nicely into a question that some students have asked us, which is, what if I struggle in the second year? Because let's face it, this isn't normal. Most other years, year ones would still be working with their tutors in college. And I can't emphasise enough that you shouldn't worry, that we're giving work online, and we know some people, bizarrely, and you may be one of these, are actually finding that really useful, and for some of you perhaps better than face-to-face. But we will make sure we guide you before you restart your studies. We're not suddenly going to throw you in there on the 1st of September and say, right, you should know all this stuff, because clearly some of it will need to go over. We'll be talking to you after half term, after Whitsun, about university entry, going on to apprenticeships, going on to jobs, and making sure you're geared up for that. And equally, we'll be talking to you about, some of you may have decided that the course you're on now isn't for you. Some of you naturally will be transferring to other courses. And we've got plenty of people ready to talk to you about those new courses, get you ready for that, and get you ready to start in however we start in September. And in terms of what will be new for September, we have got the new Block 4, as some of you will know it as, which is going to be the Halesowen College Business School. So the refurbishment's going really well. We did have to go onto campus for an hour on last Wednesday to go and have a look at it. It looks amazing. I think you'll be really impressed. And so that's quite exciting. That will also house some of our GCSE English and Maths. And the campus will look really good when you get back to it. We're having garden work and grounds work done. So what we can reassure you is that things are still going on in a really safe way. And again, it's getting used to that social distancing. I have to say the contractors have been really good with that. There were visors, there were masks, it was all done really well. And equally, we'll have upgraded digital facilities because we'll need to think about making sure that if we have got some remote learning, and it looks highly likely that we will have in September, that you've all got the laptops, tablets that you need, and that the Wi-Fi is working well, and that all the programs we need will be there. So we're doing a lot of work on that at the moment, and probably looking at things that certainly I didn't know existed before. So that will all be there for you. And again, we'll be communicating in the next few weeks about how we'll be working on that with you. So I'm going to hand over to Julia now to put your questions to me, and hope that I do better than some of the people I've seen on Mastermind in the last few weeks.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you to the students that have submitted their questions. I will present them to you, Jo, and then if you respond back, we'll go through. I've got two sections. One section is general questions that have come in about varied campus life, and then a couple of subject-specific questions from students, if that's okay. So the first one is, do you think the lockdown will affect grades, and what impact will that have?
All the guidance that we've been given is that it shouldn't affect grades because you've done a lot of work up to the point we went on lockdown. You've got target grades, and the exam boards are well accustomed to standardising and looking at what would have happened in a normal year. So we've got to predict a grade based on what you've done up to that point. And equally, the work that you've engaged with since, if you put in work because there was something missing, we'll also use that and take that into account. So it shouldn't affect grades. And indeed, for some people, it may help if sometimes you've had exam nerves. But what we will be able to do is look at those. They've said there will be an appeal process. But I'm hoping, and having looked at the grades that people have predicted, staff have given a lot of thought to it. We've asked the question, if we'd have been here till June, done the work we would have done, what would we have expected that student to come out with? And I think your teachers know you well enough to make a really good and sound prediction. And that will be the centre of what the awarding bodies use to award the grades at the end of it. So I can't guarantee that it won't, as with any other year when you sit an exam and it's the exam paper from hell or the dream exam paper. But hopefully it will be a limited effect of lockdown.
Is next year going to be longer in length, or is the college going to cut into breaks? If it's going to be the usual length, are students going to be expected to catch up with work in their free time?
So at the moment, you'll appreciate that the government put out some guidance yesterday about what teaching might look like until September. We don't know whether it'll be a longer length in year because that depends on whether they move the exam times. And it could well be that there will still be some learning online in September. So again, cutting into breaks may not be the way forward. What we will need to do is think about how we catch up any work that needs catching up. And again, the awarding bodies and the exam boards may need to take into account that you can't be expected to complete the same amount of work as somebody who hadn't had a lockdown and hadn't been educated from home. So we anticipate that they'll be looking at the assessments that they do and also taking into account the experiences that you've had. So we wouldn't be looking at any inhuman conditions, and we won't expect you to be doing miracles. We've got to work with you to support you because nobody asked for this to happen. So all I can assure you is we'll keep you posted along the way. We'll see what the exam boards say. And we've got lots of people feeding into government. And in fact, we're feeding into government saying what the challenges will be. But I don't think that's lost on any of them. And I do think that it will be fair and that there will be an appreciation of where you are and therefore what you can humanly do in the year that we're back.
Regarding timetabling, will students have a reduced timetable at college due to the government's guidelines regarding COVID-19?
We think in September that it's highly likely there will be some time on campus and sometimes still doing the type of learning you're doing now. We don't know what the percentage of that will be. We know as of today, they're saying class sizes of 15. So if that was the case, it could be you have an A and a B and you do some learning online, some remote learning and some in college. There'll certainly be some in college, we think, as long as there's not a second peak or something. But again, there is some guesswork. What we're doing is doing a kind of timetable A, B and C at this point. So in, the best case scenario, COVID-19 disappears, highly unlikely. You can come back full time, then great, we go full speed ahead. And then dependent on how much you can be at college, we'll model a timetable from that. So it could be you do half days, full days. But what's likely to be going out in the next couple of weeks is a questionnaire to you, a survey to ask you what your kind of hopes, dreams, wishes are in terms of that timetable. And also what we need to do to make you feel safe. We will follow all the government guidelines and make sure we provide a safe campus. But if you can come up with things and send us back, is it half days that are better? Is it full days? How will you feel safe? That would be really good. We're talking to staff as well, because we all need to feed into this to make sure we get the best situation we can possibly get.
Thank you. Will the college have the same facilities next year, such as the nursery?
The nursery will be open next year as soon as we know we can. And in actual fact, the nursery will be open from the 1st of June, or at least working towards the 1st of June, in line with the government guidance that's come out today. Again, what that will look like and how we'll have to manage that, we'll have to get back to people. But as soon as the college is open, the nursery will be open according to the government guidance.
How will progressional students be enrolled?
That will be an online enrolment in the first instance, and we'll be getting back to you about that the first week after Whitsun. So there will be a link online, but equally, if anybody's struggling with a computer, we will also find ways around that to make sure you get enrolled. So there will be another way of doing it, but in the main, what we're going to try and do is do an online enrolment. You click a link, put in details, and then you'll get acknowledgement of the course that you need to be on next year.
What will happen to students with underlying health conditions such as asthma once back on campus? Will there be special measures put in place?
There will need to be a whole set of special measures, I think, for both people with underlying health conditions and generally. And again, that will be guided by what the government tell us we need to do. So we'll get back to you with definitive. We're sourcing a whole range of looking at what PPE people might need, making sure we've got necessary hand sanitizers, and doing a whole load of work at the moment. And we would communicate with every student individually who has an underlying condition to make sure we're meeting the guidance and keeping them safe.
What will be done with teaching next year, as students have missed out this year?
We'll need to look at putting workshops in, and again, we may be able to put some things in, possibly in half terms as well for students who need that. We'll put whatever we can in the timetable, but again, we're going to need to look at what guidance we've got in terms of how we do that. So we're definitely not going to take for granted that people will need that. And again, as I've said to you, the awarding bodies will also need to be aware of that. So we will make sure we do whatever we need to do to make sure you're up to speed, but that could be a whole range of ways dependent on what we're allowed to do and what's safe to do.
How will the college help students struggling with an increase in workload next year due to the amount of time they've missed out on this academic year?
We'll obviously have all the welfare services and people to talk to, but I think we've got to look at workload and do what's realistic. So actually, I'm not anticipating having loads of extra work, because we're going to need to work with you to find a way to do that's human and that manages workload, because nobody can expect you to be where an A-level student or a vocational student would have been at the same time last year, because you haven't had the same conditions. It's just not the same world. So we will obviously support you, and that's personal coaches. Everybody will support you, but we also won't be asking inhuman amounts of work from you, because that's not fair. And I don't think exam boards will expect that either.
As an AS student, how will our predicted grades be provided to us in the summer if we're not doing our mocks?
The predicted grades obviously come when you put a UCAS application in, which is in the autumn term, and we will be looking at how we can do some mock assessment with you, whether that's some from home and some when we can get back on and do some kind of socially distanced exams, because we will need to do some mock exams. But equally, we need to see what comes from UCAS and comes from the government, because they may well alter the admissions as well, because they'll know it's difficult to do mock exams when you're not here. So again, we'll find a way to do it, and we'll make sure that predictions don't disadvantage you. But we will have to wait to see what the government and people say about that as well.
Do you have an update regarding work experience? When will it be reinstated?
I don't know definitively when work experience will be reinstated. And again, that will need to be very specific to the sectors that people are going out on work experience. Talking to some people from other colleges across the country last week, I don't think work experience will be up and running from the 1st of September, just because I'm not sure it can be. We're obviously keen to get people into work experience, A, because it's really valuable and key to some people's courses, and B, because people enjoy it and it really does prepare you well. But that will only be when it's safe to do so and we're given guidance that we're allowed to do that.
What will be the transport arrangements to Coombswood campus? Will I have to take a coach to main campus and then another to the campus?
That may be the case as it was this year. It may be we'll have some direct to Coombswood. Again, we've done a lot of talking about coaches and transport. Clearly, there won't be the same number of students on the coaches. And at the moment, we need to look at the guidance, but it would probably be half the number, because you would anticipate that there'll probably be one person per seat. The coach company have already bought some quite sophisticated cleaning equipment for when students get off the coach, so it's all sprayed and clean for the next lot to get on. Some of the guidance about public transport's been issued today, but it seems likely that people will have to wear masks on coaches and buses. So again, we may be looking at that. So there's a whole set of discussions going on about buses and coaches at the moment. And again, we'll update you on that, because that will be important to you feeling safe, that our coaches are able to keep you safe and have the correct social distancing.
How do I apply for a level 2 AAT with GCSE Maths and English?
So I think if you're an existing student and that's the course that you want to do, my advice would be to either contact admissions, which is admissions@halesowen.ac.uk, or to contact your personal coach and ask them to put you in touch with the person, because that would be the easiest way as an existing student to be able to do that.
If we have funding, will we have to reapply for it?
If it's Learner Support Fund, again, we'll send out details about what you need to do to be able to get that funding, and all that information will come out as soon as we can after Whitsun. We're gearing up for that, and that's when we'd usually send it out. So we're still on schedule to be able to send that out as normal. But again, if you're worrying about particular funding, get in touch with your personal coach, get in touch with somebody in the Student Hub, and they'll be able to tell you exactly how it will work.
Now on to the student-specific questions. I have 3 of them. One was from a level 3 cash early years student who asks, what's going to happen with the hours required for next year? I haven't had the chance to gain the correct amount of hours in order to progress to year 2.
Again, they'll need to look at the hours, because obviously if you're not able to go into placement, you're not able to do the qualification. It would appear that schools in some way will be back and up and running in September, and we'll need to do some risk assessments and look at whether it is safe for you to go back in and do those hours, and we will find ways around it. But certainly NCFE for and cash for your qualification in early years, they are looking really closely at how many hours you need for your licence to practice, and they will be taking that into account. So as soon as we've got the details, we'll let you know, but please don't worry, because they realise obviously if schools aren't open, you can't be getting the hours in placement.
A first year law student asks, do I need to do anything in readiness for year 2?
I think keep on with the work that the staff are setting you now, and they will be talking to you again after Whitsun about preparing for year 2. So just keeping up with that work. If you want something else in terms of a reading list, I'm sure if you contact your law teachers, they will be able to give you other things to look at if you're looking at sort of keeping engaged and reading around the subject.
And the final question, a year 11 student on the Inspire programme asks, I paid to sit my IGCSE biology exam this year as an external candidate. Will I be taking my exam at all this year? And if so, when? Or will I get a refund?
So to my knowledge at the moment, you won't be taking an exam before the summer. And there may well be some resit opportunities. And I know some people have been advised of those already when certain awarding bodies are doing things. And you would need to contact the IGCSE awarding body to find out about that. in terms of we are working with those candidates, and you can probably expect a phone call today because we've been working through those lists this morning about the specific requirements to either predict a grade from the college or to predict a grade from elsewhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So hopefully I've covered the questions and given you some answers to put your mind at rest. I apologise that some of them aren't definitive answers, but you only have to watch the news every day to know that there's very little that's definitive about COVID-19 and the coronavirus at the moment. And thank you for submitting the questions, because it does mean that we know where your thinking is and that we know what other things we need to let you know about. And as I said earlier, there's plenty of ways to ask questions. So you can submit a question on our website. You can email the hub@halesowen.ac.uk. You can email admissions@halesowen.ac.uk, and you can email info@halesowen.ac.uk. And we've got Facebook Messenger. Whichever way you're most comfortable or you find easiest, please do get in touch with us. We're also putting updates on the website regularly. So anytime anything comes out, we are updating the website. So it is worth going on there and having a look. And we do update Facebook regularly, Instagram, Twitter. And so if you don't already, please do follow all of those, the one of those which is your favourite platform or social media outlet. And that will tell you about new information, events. And I suppose it just remains for me really to say, look after yourselves and stay safe. I'm not going to do the whole government thing because I'm not sure whether it's alert or safe today. But we're really looking forward to seeing you in the autumn, however that may be. And please do keep in touch and let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Thank you.